All right. So PFF reached out to me and they gave me game simulator beta, an invitation, right? So obviously I did what anybody would do in that case, and I used it, and you will be surprised. So I don't know too much about the game simulator. I mean, really, it's like instead of playing Madden, you can just simulate on this. And I don't know how open this is going to be and whatnot. So I just figured I would, pass along my findings of a Rams season simulation 2023. Now, before I get into it, I just want to let you guys know how this whole thing worked. So I started new, right? So I clicked try now, didn't have to log in or anything, and I picked a team. I can adjust the lineups, I can adjust player grades, but I left everything the way it was. Now, I didn't look into adjust player grades, which I'm going to right now to see just what that is, and it doesn't even look like that's clickable, and adjust lineups also isn't clickable. So, okay. So anyway, I just simulated the season. I didn't do anything, and they simulate each game. You can see each game happening, and I'm going to share with you the results. Before I get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. Let's get into it. All right. So the Rams 2023 season simulation via PFF's beta simulator. The Rams at Seattle win 33-17. Week 2 against the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams win 16-6. Week 3, the Rams fall to the Bengals on, I believe, is this Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football? It's one of those things. It's a primetime game. They lose 19-17. Then they beat the Colts week 4, 23-20. They beat Philly, the defending NFC champions, 11-7. They lose to the Arizona Cardinals 24-20. Then week 7, they beat Pittsburgh 26-20. They beat Dallas the following week at Jerry World 20-10. They beat Green Bay at Lambeau 25-12. And then at the bye, the Rams are 7-2 at the bye. This is the first time I've ever used this. So 7-2 at the bye, according to PFF. Then they come off the bye. They win 34-27 against Seattle to go 8-2. They beat Arizona 38-31 at Arizona to go 9-2. They lose to Cleveland 26-9. They're 9-3. They lose to Baltimore 43-17, another blowout against Lamar Jackson. 9-4. They beat Washington 27-14. That's 10-4. They lose to the Saints on Thursday Night Football 32-26 against the Saints. That is 12-5. Actually, I just totally lost my train of thought. But anyway, they lost to the Saints. They beat the Giants 26-13 at MetLife. They lose to the 49ers 31-26. And the Rams go 11-6. I have that too. But PFF Simulator, 11-6. Now you can see all the players and the stat predictions and everything. It's actually pretty cool. The simulation came away with Matthew Stafford throwing 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4,960 yards passing for Stafford. Cam Akers ended up having a whale of a season, going over 1,200 yards, almost 1,300 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 1,200, almost 1,300 total yards. He had 844 rushing yards, so not as big of a season as I thought. Then he had 442 receiving yards to go with that on 44 receptions. You had Kyron Williams going for 408 total yards. This thing set up a little weird. Cooper Kupp, 97 catches for 1,170 yards, 9 touchdowns. That feels like, even though they went 11-6, and this feels like an absolute win of a year for the Rams, I feel like Cooper Kupp would do more than that. Just my guess. Van Jefferson, 61 receptions for 960 yards. So Van almost gets to 1,000, 5 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee goes for 761, 4 touchdowns, 62. How about Ben Skoranek here? 51 receptions, 6 touchdowns, 706 receiving yards. This is all based on their lineups. So clearly they have Ben Skoranek ahead of Tutu Atwell on the depth chart, 1. And 2, it's also based on their grading scale. So based on where these guys are. Puka Nacua had 2 catches for 14 yards. Davis Allen had 3 catches for 36. Lance McCutcheon caught 7 balls for 119 yards. Kyron Williams came down with 21 receptions for 145. Bryson Hopkins, 21 for 225. And Tutu Atwell, 25 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 362 yards. That seems like a little bit of a underrated factor there with Tutu Atwell. I don't know. Just my personal opinion. And since I can't click on the adjust player ratings or adjust lineups, I don't know personally if PFF is going to change that or whatever, but I can't do it. I'm going to simulate the season again. I want to see what happens, what they give me this time. So the Rams, they beat Seattle 15-10. They lose to the 49ers 31-17. They lose to Cincinnati 25-13. They beat Indy 30-28. They lose to Philly 24-21. They lose to Arizona 29-24. They lose to Pittsburgh 27-26. They lose to Dallas 26-17. They beat Green Bay 42-23. They beat Seattle 27-25. They beat Arizona 11-7. They beat Cleveland 31-23. They lose to Baltimore. This time it's not a straight up blowout, 40-33. They lost to Washington 42-35. They lose to the Saints 24-20. They beat the Giants 31-23, and they lose to the 49ers 33-23. So the first simulation was 11-6. This simulation was 7-10. Stafford had more touchdowns in this one and threw for, he threw for 6,000 yards. So I don't know how realistic that is. But 6,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Cooper Kupp had 1,600 yards receiving on 123 receptions and only 5 touchdowns. Very odd stuff I'm seeing here. Cam Akers had 797 receiving yards on 66 receptions. Tyler Higbee had 878. Van Jefferson 873. And Cam Akers ran for 926 yards. That means Cam Akers almost had 1,800 total yards. Kyron Williams had 500 plus total yards. This is a weird simulation. So let's go. Let's do this again. Third time's a charm. We got 11-6. We got 10-7. Let's go again. This is bizarre. I found this really interesting. All right, let's do it. So simulate season. Here we go. They win against Seattle 30. So it seems like they think that the Rams are going to beat Seattle. They lost to the Niners. They lost to the Bengals by 1 possession. They beat the Colts 2-2. This is pretty much where I have them at this point. They have them beating the Eagles in this one 3-2. Then they have them lose to Arizona. They keep having them lose to Arizona. I don't think Arizona gets a win off against the Rams this year, but that's just me. They lose to Arizona 27-7. They lose to Pittsburgh 26-13. They lose to Dallas. They beat Green Bay. So kind of interesting. They lose to Seattle here. They beat Arizona, and they beat Cleveland. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins. They lost to Baltimore this time by 3. They beat Washington, so that's 7 wins. Lose to the Saints by 3. They lose to the Giants by 3. And they beat the Niners by 2, going 8-9. So, all right. This is what I'll take away from this. By the way, this is a good year for Stafford. 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 5,000 passing yards. Cooper Kupp, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns. I think he needs to be in the teens. If he plays a whole year, my projection would be Cooper Kupp would probably have over 100 receptions, probably around 1,400 receiving yards, and probably around 13 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee, 953. So they like Higbee in these simulations. Ben Skoranek is around the 600 to 800 or 600 to 700 mark. Atwell, they're just not high on. I think Atwell is going to surprise people. Cam Akers, another almost 1,800 yard projection there. Kyron Williams over 500 again. Yeah, this is really fascinating. But I think it kind of goes to show you. I mean, it's a simulator, it's in beta, so it's not perfect, and you're not going to get a perfect simulator. But what I keep seeing is that this simulator believes one, Matthew Stafford is going to have a good season one way or another. So Matthew Stafford's performance, according to this simulator, is going to be very good. He has 2 years where it was really good and 1 year that was kind of good. Then you have Cooper Kupp, who's just going to be a model of consistency all across the board, but he is going to go over 1,200 yards or close to 1,200 yards or more. Then you have Tyler Higbee, who clearly this model believes in because he continues to move up the rungs as far as that goes. So the simulator likes Higbee. The simulator also likes Van Jefferson. He's been around the 800 to 950 mark. Simulator likes Ben Skoranek. The simulator does not like Tutu Atwell. Does like Kyron Williams to a degree, just doesn't think he's going to get a lot of playing time. Lance McCutcheon, clearly the simulator likes, just doesn't think he's going to get lots of playing time. Bryson Hopkins kind of from 300 to 60. I mean, that's kind of where you're looking, 300 yards, 60 yards. Simulator likes Cam Akers, though. Simulator believes in Cam Akers is going to be the go-to guy. I do as well. And the simulator does not like rookies. And it's just offensive stats. But overall, I would say that 8 and 9, 7 and 10, and 11 and 6, that's absolutely fair. I'm not going to do another simulation, but I like that. I think it's absolutely fair for the Rams to be in that realm because I think 7 and 10 is their floor and I think 11 and 6 is their ceiling. I really do. I mean, I don't think they have the most talented roster I've ever seen, but they still have a lot of talented guys on this roster and they have some superstars on this roster. Stafford's a top 10 quarterback. Cooper Kupp's the best wide receiver in the league. Aaron Donald is the best defensive lineman in the league. I mean, they have superstar talent and I think Ernest Jones is going to be slept on by a lot of people, but he's a stud too. So look, all right, when I look at this list, look at this simulator, I think one, bravo PFF, you deserve credit. This is what we've been waiting for. A lot of people play Madden just for the simulation, like because it's cool. So you don't have to boot up Madden anymore and waste your time waiting for it to simulate. You can just go to PFF. This is cool. That's first thing. Second thing, I like that they use their grades. Third thing, I like that at some point, maybe it was supposed to work. It just didn't for me. You can customize your grades. So you can change the grades of different players that you're using in the simulation, maybe make them better than they actually are, like a Tutu Atwell that probably deserves that. You could also change the lineups. I didn't do that because it wouldn't let me, but that is a fascinating thing. And lastly, I'm going to give this thing a grade, and I'm going to say they've done a nice job with it. I'll say it's a B+. I think it's a solid thing. I'd like to see defensive stats, and here's why. I'll say defensive stats you could have because you have already, and I understand, easy does it. You're putting out something brand new out there. We have all the draft simulators and everything. Now we get a season simulator, so shout out to you. But my point is that I like to see defensive stats because we get those in Madden, obviously. And you have all of those grades. So you can simulate stats. You can simulate sacks. You can simulate interceptions and even pressures. So I think that would be cool. That's just a little feedback that if they see this, that I wanted to add. But overall, I like this. I like this a lot. And I think this doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't mean, like, just because Stafford, they have him throwing 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, doesn't mean he can't throw more than 9 or less than 33 or more than 33. But it gives you a good idea of what these models are thinking. And it's just the idea, like, the Rams being in contention for the number 1 overall pick. We need to get that out of our head now, unless they have a catastrophic season where you're talking about, like, everybody going down with an injury. They're going to be around the 7 and 10 to 11 and 6 range. And that's a big range, but that's what we're looking at right now. The Rams are either going to win 7 games or they're going to win like up to 11 games. Maybe they go more than that because they have a great coach. I don't know. But I hope what this video does is kind of reprograms your mind. If you're thinking tanking, if you're thinking they're going to pick in the top 3, this is PFF. Now, you could say, like, I've heard it, PFF hates us, PFF hates the Rams. Well, this is what they think. And to have a 7-10, 8-9, and 11-6. But I will mention they started off with 11-6 simulation. That tells me quite a bit. So definitely check that out if you can. They sent me a link. They probably sent you guys a link. I'm not saying it was exclusively to me. It's probably an open beta, but I still thought it was cool. The game simulator. Glad I checked it out and figured I'd make a video about it. So I'm curious. Drop in the comment section below. What do you think about the simulator and the simulation? Do you think this was a good idea? Do you like videos like this? Should I do more videos like this? Will you be using the simulator? Will you take any of this to mind? Are you somewhat more excited about Stafford after seeing this or less? I don't know. Give it to me straight. But that's going to do it. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and I'm out of here. Later, folks.